Good afternoon and welcome to Making the Most of Midterms. My name is Lauren Kennan and I'm the coordinator of New Student Transitions in the Office of New Student Transitions and First Year Experience. I am super excited to be your host today. This afternoon, we have several panelists who have come together from all over campus to talk to you about midterm grades and give you the information you need to know about how to move forward from here. If you have any questions throughout this forum or even after, we encourage you to text your first year. We're dropping the number in the chat right now. So please text in questions for the panelists using that YFY texting line at 1-336-541-6939. Additionally, I would like to remind you all that this event is part of the YFY Success Series. We'll be sending you a post-event survey after we finish up today, and we encourage you to fill it out to receive full credit for this event. We'll start today's program with a brief presentation given by Maggie Nichols, the coordinator of your first year, who will tell you everything you need to know about midterm grades and what next steps you should take to move forward. After this, we will begin our Q&A panel with students, staff, and faculty who will share their advice on what to do with midterm grades. So again, be sure to text in any questions that you have. I'm now going to pass things over to Maggie Nichols to help us better understand midterm grades.
Thanks, Lauren. Thank you for kicking us off. So good afternoon, first year students. Again, my name is Maggie Nichols and I am the coordinator for your first year. And I am so excited to be talking to you today and telling you how to make the most of your midterm grades. So to start off, I'm going to briefly review what midterm grades are. Midterm grades are indicators of how well you're doing in your classes at this point in the semester. Think of a progress report. We're now officially halfway through the fall semester, so I want students to know where their grade currently stands. Your midterm grades may mean different things for each of your courses and can vary based on the number of assignments that you've had at this point in the semester. Regardless, midterm grades signal to you what changes you may need to make or how you should continue performing in order to reach a grade that you're satisfied with at the end of the semester. The goal of midterm grades is to motivate you into action moving into the second half of the semester. So now that you've received your midterm grades, it's time to look at how you're doing. If you haven't checked your midterm grades yet, you can log into UNC Genie after this forum to view them. If you have received high midterm grades in your courses, like A's and B's, it's a really good indicator that you should keep doing what works for you to maintain your high grade through finals. So keep working hard and don't lose steam. At this point, again, you want to maintain your high grade and focus on doing so. So maybe your grades are sitting around the mid-range right now, B's and C's. Now is the time to make some changes. This is a great time to look at your syllabus or Canvas course to find out the impact your assignments have on your grades. If all of your assignments are listed in Canvas, you can actually enter anticipated grades into upcoming assignments to see what your final grade might be and what you need to get there. It is also the time to talk to your instructor and connect with academic support services. And we'll talk a little bit about those in the next few slides. But maybe your grades are in the lower range and you're starting to think about withdrawing from a course and what that might look like. If you're thinking about withdrawing, talk to your academic advisor and your instructor to review your course grades and talk about the pros and cons. A lot of times students are reluctant to withdraw, but remember, a withdrawal is always better than an F on your transcript. Most importantly, when we're talking about withdrawals, don't wait. These conversations are very important. And on Friday, October 6th, that is the last day to withdraw from a full semester course without incurring a withdrawal failing grade or WF grade. If there are any midterm grades that you're concerned about, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to meet with your advisor, especially if you're considering withdrawing from a course. Course withdrawal might just be the best course of action for you. So if you have a low grade in a course, schedule a meeting with your advisor as soon as possible to make sure you have these conversations before the October 6th deadline. So now our next step is to get connected with our campus resources, right? So at the Academic Achievement Center, or the AAC, you can sign up for tutoring and skills mentoring. The AAC also hosts a variety of workshops through the semester that can be helpful to you when you're trying to improve your grade. Um, we've had a lot of them throughout the semester in the Success Series. The multi-literacy centers and the Math Help Center as well are also great resources if you have upcoming major assignments like presentations, papers, or exams. I also recommend that you check out the Academic Success Coaching Services, as well as the Midterm Grades website. Academic success coaches help you stay motivated, build problem-solving skills, and develop self-confidence related to your academic life. They also promote principles of self-care and try and foster a sense of belonging on campus. The Midterm Grades website, on the other hand, has resources like steps to access your grade in UNC Genie. So again, if you haven't looked at them yet, you can find out how to on there. A GPA calendar that you can use to better understand your grades and GPA, information about things like grade appeals, links to connect with your advisor, and so much more. And lastly, I want to mention the VAC clinic as well as counseling psychological services, which is the counseling center. If you're struggling, feeling overwhelmed, burnout, please reach out. We know things that happen in life that you don't expect, and being a first-year student, as well as just a student, can be really difficult in a multitude of ways. And there are both online and in-person resources available through both of these offices, and they are here and ready to help you. So please, 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 I can't encourage enough, reach out. Remember, midterm grades are there to help you stay on track and keep you informed about your progress during the semester. Like I mentioned earlier, midterm grades are similar to a progress report. So now we're going to look at some action steps to keep you moving forward into the end of the semester. So the first step is to always review your syllabus and utilize office hours. If you're doing really well in a course, it's still important for you to connect with your professor or instructor and stay informed about what's coming up next in class. So you got to keep up the good work. Next, connect with campus resources. The resources we talked about in the previous slide are great starting points, but there are still so many different options on campus that can help you be successful moving forward into the second half of fall. Step 3 is connect with classmates and make study groups. Peers can be a great source of support, so do not be afraid to lean over and talk to the person next to you in class. And then last, but certainly not least, is to talk with your advisor. Your advisor is the best resource when it comes to midterm grades, and they can walk you through next steps like course withdrawal, especially course withdrawal. Withdrawing from a course may be the best option for you, like I said earlier, so please get in touch with your advisor before October 6th so that you can talk to them more about it. So that concludes my part of the presentation. Thank you all so much for listening. Now it's time to make the most of your midterms with our wonderful panelist Q&A style.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maggie. That was some great information. We do have a few different panelists joining us today, so can each of our panelists at this time introduce yourselves and your role on campus?
Hi there, I'll start us off. I'm Dana Saunders. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Assistant Dean for Advising and Student Success in the Division of Student Success here at UNCG. So glad to see y'all today.
Hi, I'm Eric Bird. I am a faculty member in the Bryan School of Business in the Department of Marketing, Entrepreneurship, Hospitality, and Tourism.
Hey everybody, I'm Robin Maxwell. I am in the biology department, and I'm a senior lecturer in the biology department, but I also am an advisor, and I'm the chair of health career advising at UNCG. So I help all the pre-med, pre-dent, pre-PA, pre-PT students who are wanting to have this very strong academic record to apply for schools. I work with that group of students to help them be as successful as possible. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ivan Tarpley. I use he, him pronouns. I am a junior here at UNCG. I am a communication studies major, and on campus, I serve as one of the 2 first-year assistants for the Office of New Student Transitions.
Hi everyone, my name is Manny Aquino. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm a double major in political science and philosophy going on to my 4th year. The things I do on campus include also being a first year assistant to the New Student Transitions and First Years Experience Office, and also serving as the Attorney General for the student government.
Hey, Sade, it looks like you're unmuted or muted.
So embarrassing. Can you hear me now? Great. So hello everyone, my name is Sade Underwood and I use she, her pronouns. I'm a senior majoring in human development and family studies, and on campus I serve as a peer academic leader and a resident advisor.
Thank you all so much. We do appreciate you all being here today as our panelists, but we're going to go ahead and jump into our questions from the texting line. So our first question from the texting line is actually for our faculty on the panel. What are the best ways students can approach their professors to discuss their midterm grades?
Okay, I'm going to start. I think the best way to approach your professor is whichever way you feel most comfortable with. But for me, for students, I normally want to see them one-on-one in a private environment. So sometimes students want to approach me after class or in the break I give in the middle of class or at the end of class. But I value your privacy. I want us to have an honest talk about what you have done and what your progress is. So I really want you to come talk to me one-on-one in my office. And for me, I have drop-in office hours, but I also have starfish appointments, which you can sign up for. And that way you can reserve a space. Maybe my drop-in office hours are not convenient to your schedule, or you just want to guarantee that nobody else is going to be coming by asking to see me at that time. And I really like that, again, really frank, really honest, really connected conversation between me and you. And the only other thing I'm going to mention about how to approach is that when you approach, I think it's really important to bring materials with you for us to discuss and to build on. Because if you walk into my office and you say, I don't like my midterm grade, that's not a good grade, I want to get a better grade, what should I do? Well, we can't do very much constructive work until I know what you've done this far. And so I often tell people, bring your study materials, bring your study notes, bring anything that you use to prepare for your graded materials, and let's use that to brainstorm and figure out what to do better. And it's just having something concrete to work together on just makes it a less intimidating kind of appointment for you.
And I would agree with everything that Robin just said. For me, it would be very similar, because what we want to do as faculty is we want to make sure that we're talking to you specifically, because this is your midterm grade. And so if you come to us right after class, we've not been able to prepare to talk to you specifically about your midterm grade. So setting up that appointment, scheduling that appointment, making sure that you've got that 15-minute, maybe 30-minute block of time with that faculty member to sit down and talk about your grades. Because the faculty member has to go back and look and see, okay, I graded this assignment, you got this grade on this assignment. Let me remember why I gave this grade. Let me look at the rubric again, so that you can have that frank conversation with the faculty member to understand, okay, why was I making these grades on maybe it's an exam. Why did I not do so well on the exam? And the faculty member can help walk you through that. But it allows the faculty member time to prepare, but also, as Robin said, you need to come in prepared to have a discussion. It's not just what can you do, what can the faculty member do for you? It's let's have a discussion on how we can progress to the next part of this semester and do well in the next part of this semester so that you can achieve what your academic goal is.
Great, thank you both so much. As a follow-up, this question is for the students on the panel. How would you recommend chatting with your professors? Many of the students texting in are nervous to have those conversations, so do you all have any tips?
I can start us off. My first tip is to just be transparent with your professors and what you need help with, what you may be struggling with, and don't be afraid to ask them and tell them, hey, I need help with this, or I'm not understanding these things. Our professors here really care about you and your grade, but they don't know how to support you if you're not being upfront, honest, and transparent with them. So if that means you writing down some notes before you come to the meeting, just so you can stay on track, just try to find a way to stay calm and be very transparent and honest about what you need.
Yeah, I have to echo Sade in terms of transparency. Also, just remember, I can understand that sometimes going up to professors can be intimidating, especially as a first year student. For my experiences, it was a little bit intimidating for me at first, but I have come to learn and just appreciate that our professors are people too, and you should just go up to them and have a conversation with them as you would anyone else. It is important to maintain a certain level of professionalism since you are a student in their class, and respect for that professor. But just keep in mind that you are also talking to a person. This is not just someone that lives in the classroom. This is someone that also can understand the problems that you're facing as a student.
For my advice, both of them said what I was going to say. So my little thing that I keep in the back of my head whenever it comes to approaching professors is that their goal is not to fail you in their class. They can't help you if they don't know how to help you. So making sure to communicate that and reminding yourself that they are people first before professors, and their goal is to help you pass the class.
Thank you, students. Some great advice there. Our next question is for Dana. So students would like to know when they should come talk to advisors regarding their midterm grades, and how do students go about making those appointments?
Great question. So I think professors are the place to start, specifically when you've got questions about a midterm grade in a specific class, because your faculty members are your go-to people in that respect. Your academic advisors can be really helpful when you're looking at kind of the big picture. So these are all of my midterm grades. Now I need to figure out what to do about that. And you got some great information in the PowerPoint about what those action steps might be. But academic advisors can definitely sit down with you, again, look at that holistic picture, help you sort of think about, okay, if these were your final grades, what would that mean at the end of the semester? And then what are the action steps that you can take from there? And we cannot emphasize enough, we'll probably say it a couple more times before the end of our talk today, especially if you're thinking about withdrawal. Withdrawal is a good option in certain cases, and advisors can really help you think about, is it a good option for you? Again, because of what they're seeing in individual classes, but also across your midterm grades as a whole. I think it was Robin that mentioned that she's got her office hours in Starfish. Starfish is also where academic advisors, especially in the academic advising centers, also have their appointments posted. So lots of appointment availability there, especially over the next 2 weeks, because we know it's midterm season. You're trying to wrap up all your business before fall break. And so there's lots of appointment availability out there. Our advising centers in each of our schools and colleges also have drop-in hours. So very similar to to faculty members' office hours. Advising centers have drop-in hours all throughout the week. And I'm going to drop here in the chat, actually, the website where you can go and see the drop-in hours for each of our advising centers. They vary a little bit just because our advising centers are different sizes and have different numbers of staff and lots of things that they're balancing. But all of our advising centers will have drop-in hours next Friday afternoon, which happens to be the deadline to withdraw without any kind of GPA penalty, and also is the perfect thing to handle before you leave campus for fall break. So go here if you're thinking about visiting with academic advisors earlier in the week, but remember that we've got drop-in hours for all of our advising centers on Friday afternoon next week, October 6th.
Can I add one more comment to Dana?
Absolutely.
all of which is 100% concur with what Dana said. I'm going to tell students the reason we keep saying talk to your advisor, is that remember that you have this key thing called satisfactory academic progress, which means that you have to successfully complete 67% of the courses you're in at the end of the first week. And a lot of students think, well, if I withdraw from that, that kept me from failing, so that saved my GPA, which is true. But withdrawing does not successfully complete the hours. So I've had people who withdrew from one class and then they end up failing another, and they thought they were fine, but both the withdrawal and the failure count as not completing successfully the hours they were in at the end of the first week. So your advisor is the one who can tell you if you will remain on satisfactory academic progress, which is important to keep your financial aid. So really important to stay off probation. You don't want to accidentally get on probation because you thought you were doing the right thing. So that's why we keep saying talk to your advisors first.
Thank you both. That is really helpful information for students to know. I have another question here for our student panelists from the texting line. What academic resources can I utilize if I'm struggling in a speaking and writing intensive course?
Okay, so if you're struggling in a speaking or writing intensive course, I would suggest going to the Speaking Center or the Writing Center. Both of these are very underrated resources that we have on campus, and both of these are also very decorated in their achievements that they have, not just on this campus, but like in the state. And as far as our speaking center, I know because I have gotten a lot of information from them, but they are also nationally decorated in terms of their achievements here at UNCG. So definitely take advantage of these resources. These are free to you as students here. So visit them as many times as you want to. You can visit both of them anytime throughout the speech writing process for the speaking center or for the writing process, like if you're working on a big essay or something like that. If you like just can't get started or you need help wrapping up, just go to the speaking center. They can put a nice little bow on it, and you know it's going to be perfect if you go to either of those two resources.
Shade or Manny, did you have anything you'd like to add? Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Ivan. So our next question is for Professor Maxwell and Dr. Bird. Oh, I'm sorry, Manny, did you have something?
I was just gonna say, if you really are scared to go to the speaking or the writing center, the only thing I would say for the writing center is when they help you, they make you read your paper. So if you really don't want to go or can't push yourself to go, using that tip of reading out your paper out loud is really important. Being able to catch those grammatical errors whenever it comes to speaking it out loud is really helpful. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Manny. All right, so next question for Professor Maxwell and Dr. Bird. Students want to know, what are some ways that you support your students during midterm season and throughout the semester?
I'm going to let Dr. Bird go first, since I went first last time. So you're up, you first.
Thank you. So how do we support during the midterm season and throughout the semester? Realistically, I support the students the same way throughout the entire semester. I have my office hours, but I'm always available via email, students coming by the office, sitting down and talking. But the key is for the students to reach out. I'll look at how students are doing on an exam, and if students are struggling on the exam, I might reach out to them and say, hey, you didn't do well, let's talk. But if there's a student in the class that's struggling on an assignment that they haven't turned in yet, so it hasn't been graded, that's the time that you reach out to your professor or your instructor and say, I'm having trouble. I don't understand this part of the assignment. Because trust me, if you don't understand a part of the assignment, there's a good chance that you're not going to deliver what the professor is looking for. So reach out to that professor and say, I don't understand this. Can you explain it to me? Can we sit down and talk through this? Because what that does is it shows initiative. And I'll be honest with you, every student that's come to me and talked about an assignment before they've turned it in have always done well on those assignments. Because I also put it in the back of my mind, this student came and talked to me. So when I'm reading through that assignment, the other thing that I'll often do is on what I would call big stake assignments. So major papers that are in the class or something that's going to have a large percentage of a grade. I will often tell students, if you send me drafts of that paper or of that assignment, I'll look through it and make sure that you're on the right track. Now, I might not grade it like I would the final submission, but I'll kind of look through it and make sure that the students are on the right track so that they're not going to be surprised by whatever grade they get. So those are some general ways, but a lot of times it's, again, to the student to kind of reach out, because I've got one class of 153 students. And so as much as I want to reach out to every 153 of them, I can't in the number of hours that are there. So if there's a student struggling, or if there's a student that just has a question, reach out to your faculty members. Don't think that, oh, I should already know this. No, that's why you're here, to learn. And so that's what we're here to do, is help you learn.
So I love all of what he's doing. It's interesting that we're doing very similar things, but yes, office hours and appointments are all great. But part of what I do for my students is something similar to what he does. I have extra credit assignments that students can do that kind of helps them organize the material that I'm doing in lecture and draw images of it or put it on an organizational chart. It's extra credit. They don't have to do it, but it is going to be bonus points for their next upcoming test. So they can earn bonus points on the test before test day, which is kind of nice and reassuring. But I also tell them, if you turn it in, and they turn them in through Canvas, if you turn them in 24 hours before they're due, I'll go through and mark them and what needs to be fixed. And then you can fix them and turn them in by the due date and get a perfect score. And so a lot of students will take advantage of that. And that's my sneaky way to get people to work ahead of time, not to do things at the last minute when you might rush. And it kind of gets them in that habit of doing things before they're due. And it also gives them higher grades on those assignments, and they have more feedback because I'm looking at a partially done assignment or a draft assignment sometimes. And they're saying, just grade what I've got, Miss Maxwell, just grade what I've got. And so I've made a commitment to do that, and they know that I will always do that for them. Also, I will frequently talk about particularly sticky parts. If there's a sticky part and I know they're struggling with it, I'm going to do anything I can to make them understand. I'm going to come up with a funny limerick that helps them remember the words that they have to know. I'm going to come up with a really dumb story from when I was in college, and the students know I'm so old that I tell them, like, I'm going to use panty raids as an example to describe what interferons do in the body. They have no idea what a panty raid is, but it's a funny story that they'll never forget, and they'll remember what interferon is after that. So I'll do like really silly things like that, or make them get up and act out parts. If I know you're going to struggle with it, I want you to have a visual. So I'll do that throughout the semester. And the only other thing that I do that Eric doesn't do, and it sounds like he and I have been reading from the same playbook. The only other thing that I do that maybe he doesn't do is, I'm a mom. So I have a basket of snacks in my office with a sign that says, "Are you hungry? Forgot your lunch bag, don't get paid for 2 more days. I just didn't have anything in my cabinet this morning. Please come get a snack." And so students will come in to grab a snack, and that starts that conversation, and they get more comfortable coming to my office. And then they're more likely to come with an academic issue because I know they like Rice Krispie treats because they've been eating them all semester long.
Thank you both. I have another question for Dana. What should students do if they cannot see a midterm grade?
Oh, good question. So if you can't see a midterm grade, first and foremost, double check that it's actually a class where you should have a midterm grade, because there are most courses will have midterm grades, but there are some courses that won't have midterm grades. First of all, midterm grades are only required for courses that last the whole 15-week semester. So all the way, started in August, go all the way to December. If you're in what we call a mini-mester course or a part of term course, which means if you're in one right now and it's getting ready to wrap up here in another couple of weeks, or if you're in a course that hasn't started yet, you won't have a midterm grade for those courses. You also might not have a midterm grade for courses like labs, where the final grade is wrapped up in the lecture and you're taking a lab and a lecture together. Not all labs are like that, but sometimes they are. So the best place to check that is if you're enrolled in courses right now, talk to your faculty members. I know they're talking to you about midterm grades in your classes, and also double check your syllabi, because that's where you're going to know, like, okay, is there a grading scale? Will I receive a final grade? Is this a full semester course? That kind of thing. So just double check that. Now, we started off earlier in our conversation and we said faculty are people too, right? Which means sometimes life happens, they missed deadlines, they got busy, an emergency happened that they had to prioritize, and maybe they didn't get their midterm grades submitted. And so you're not seeing that in UNC Genie, right? If that isn't the case, that doesn't mean do nothing. If anything, that means, okay, let me add these action items to the list, because it's your final grade at the end of the semester, right? And midterm grades is your really first signal, or one of your first signals to know how you're doing in the course. So my suggestions are, and I would love to hear from the faculty members on this, but I would say, first of all, check Canvas, because you've probably been receiving grades on assignments already, and depending on how Canvas gradebook looks, you know how things are looking in the class, right? And the second thing I would say is think about, have I received any starfish flags? Because faculty members have also been raising starfish flags if they're concerned about you personally, or they're noticing that you're not showing up to class, or you've missed an assignment. You know, those are signals that you need to do something different as well. And take all of that information, because I think, as Professor Maxwell was saying, like, bring something with you when you come to meet with me in my office hours. Take all that information and that research that you've done on your end about where you think you stand in class, and then leverage your faculty members again. Go to their office hours and say, hey, I think I'm missing a midterm grade. I just want to double check and see where things stand. This is what I think. Am I on track here, or am I missing something? And I think that will give you just as much good information as the midterm grade that you see in black and white there in UNC Genie.
Thank you. Before we move on, Dr. Bird, Professor Maxwell, did you have anything you wanted to add about if a student cannot see a midterm grade? Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah, simply just reach out to your faculty member. I mean, if you don't see the grade, reach out and say, I didn't see my midterm grade. Can you at least give me an indication of where I stand? And that faculty member will sit down and talk with you. And if everything's good, great. But if there's something that needs to be addressed, you've already started the conversation.
Yeah, I think Dana was right. I talked to a faculty member on Friday, and our midterm grades were due on Friday afternoon. And I talked to a faculty member at like 1 on Friday, and I said, so have you got your midterm grades turned in yet? And he was like, oh my gosh, is that today? I'm not going to have time. I'm not going to do it. Oh no. And he was like distraught, but there was no way he could get it done. So like Dana said, things happen, and the term absent-minded professor is based on reality. We tend to get distracted by all kinds of other pressure and things that we have to do in our lives. And so it may not be you at all. It could absolutely be the faculty, and they're going to be happy to give you an idea of what your midterm grade is if you meet with them one-on-one.
Thank you all for your insight. Our next question is for the students on our panel, and a few of your peers from the texting line want to ask, is it really possible to bring up my grade by the end of the semester?
So I can start. Yes, it is possible. With that being said, you really got to lock in. It's at that point in the semester where you have to look inside yourself and know if you are to make that decision of really aiming for the top grade, you got to be firm with it, and you got to be consistent. You got to practice self-discipline, being able to do homework on time, being able to prioritize schoolwork over hanging out with friends and stuff like that. Being able to do those things will really boost your grades. Nothing is out of your reach, but you got to start planning it now. You got to start taking an action plan now, and you really got to be able to communicate with your friends and your family that you will have to step back a little, that you have to prioritize school, but it is possible. Never tell yourself you can't do it.
Yes, I definitely agree with Manny It is going to be possible, but you have to communicate with your professors today. I know it's easy for us to be like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. No, don't wait. We are at week 7. It is the midpoint. From here on out, you don't want to keep putting things off. So talk to them, set up those meetings today, and then you will be able to bring your grade up.
Yeah, I think right now it's time for you to prioritize time management and really understand the importance of scheduling time to sit down and do your work, study, do what you need to do. Like what Manny was saying, lock in. It's time to just focus.
And I want to add one comment, and I know I'm not a student, but I'm going to be the naysayer, and I'm going to remind you guys that yes, it is possible to bring your grade up, but you need to honestly look at the syllabus, look at the number of graded assignments left, and don't say, you know, I've got an F right now, but I know I can pull an A out of this class if I just do a little bit more effort. I think you need to really look at the breakdown of the grades, what you have left, use the Canvas what if, where you can put in the possible grades. Do not say, I'm going to make an A in this class when numerically it is not possible. You can bring your grade up in every class. Can you bring it up to an A? You might have lost that possibility this semester, but bringing it up to an B is an awesome, amazing thing if you have an F right now. But I'm just going to say, be realistic. Don't be heartbroken if you can't bring it up to an A. You may not be able to do that, but you can bring it up.
I'm going to add to what Robin just said. Midterm grades, and I think it was said earlier in the presentation, midterm grades for Robin's class are going to look different from my class because we're at different points in the grading process. On the calendar, yes, we're at the midterm. But in my class, we've gotten about 25 to 30% of the grades in. So if you're really looking at trying to take a lower grade and bring it to a B or an A, in my class with only 30% in, that's a doable. If you buckle down what the students said, time management, buckle down, really focus in, that's possible. Now, if you're in another class and say 50% of the coursework is in, it's going to become more difficult. So that's when, again, you talk with your professor, and maybe the conversation is, I really am, my goal is to make a B in this class. Is there a realistic route to this? And then work with your professor to maybe even make a plan of how we'll achieve this. You know, maybe it's let's identify key points in the semester where I know this assignment needs to be turned in. What grade am I looking for here to see that I'm on track? And again, I really encourage y'all to go talk to each individual faculty member that you've got a concern with the class and just say, where am I at? And let's see if we can develop a plan.
Thank you all. So going off of that last question, Dana, could you tell us at what point students should consider withdrawing from a class? And can you share a little bit more about what course withdrawal looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone on that last question really hit the nail on the head. And so if it's at the point where it's not mathematically possible to get the grade that you want or need, then it is time to seriously consider course withdrawal. Also, remember I was talking earlier, there's like questions about this one midterm grade in this one course, and then there's looking at your midterm grades across all of your courses and where do you stand in terms of what your GPA is likely to be if those grades remain at the end of this semester. Professor Maxwell mentioned a little bit earlier things about staying in good academic standing and staying in good satisfactory academic progress. All of that is also information that you want to take into account when it becomes mathematically impossible for you to increase your grade to what you need it to be. Or if you had a real realization and you're just being honest with yourself and you're like, I know it's mathematically possible, but I also know that I still got to work and I still have to take care of my younger siblings and I'm still traveling back and forth an hour to get to campus all the time. So there's only so many hours in the day and I can't lock in at the level that I need to. At that point, it's again time to think about course withdrawal. And your faculty members can support you in individual courses, and your advisors can help you in thinking through sort of all the the repercussions, or just the things that you should consider in terms of financial aid and academic standing and my GPA, because what Professor Maxwell said is right. Like, withdrawing from a course is not a decision to take lightly, but when you're thinking about an individual course especially, it is nearly always 99.9% of the time better than an F grade. You just have to be aware of what are sort of the ripple effects of that, and advisors can help you with that. So I think the second part of your question, Lauren, was, what does course withdrawal look like? Is that right?
Yes.
So let me also again put in the chat. I'm going to take you to this website is going to take you to step-by-step instructions for the things to think about and how to actually move forward with withdrawal after you talk with an advisor, right? After you consider all of these things, talk to your faculty members. Here's some like good information for you there. You've got to withdraw inside of UNC Genie. So not Schedule Hero, which is maybe one of the scheduling tools that you're familiar with, but inside of UNC Genie. And when you go to select the course to withdraw using these instructions, there's going to be a couple of questions that are asked of you, kind of like a survey. And those questions have two purposes. One, it helps UNCG to determine what's going on that makes you decide to withdraw. And that information essentially just helps us know how can we better support students moving forward who may also need to withdraw. And then the second part is a safety net to essentially mathematically behind the scenes in technological magical world know if you withdraw, is it putting you at risk for not meeting satisfactory academic progress or withdrawing from too many classes at once? And if that's the case, it's going to stop and redirect you to the Students First office for additional assistance. Doesn't mean you can't withdraw, just means like you need to have a little bit more of a conversation first. So that is it in a nutshell. But essentially all those things in place are encouragement to talk with advisors, and that Q&A that's in UNC Genie and that final warning message is there just to help you all make those informed choices and know that, you know, sometimes this is a tricky business to navigate, and this is helping you not ensure that you're not making decisions that you regret later because you didn't understand the trickle-down effects.
Thank you so much. All right, so this next question is something that we discussed from the student perspective earlier in the panel, but a similar question is now being asked for our faculty. So for Dr. Burt and Professor Maxwell, if a student is feeling uncomfortable coming to their professor for help, what advice would you give them?
I'll go first this time again. We'll take turns, Eric. I think we kind of alluded to this before. I think if you go to a professor with questions written down already and with your materials with you, then it's not as intimidating because you aren't going to come in and not know what to say or feel awkward. You can come in and you have something prepared and you can read it. If you're nervous and you feel uncomfortable talking to that person, then you could just read your list of questions and at least you have something to go by so you're not sitting there in awkward silence with crickets going on. But the other thing I encourage you to do is maybe without having to make an appointment, maybe approach the teacher after or before class, or I give a break in the middle and say, I'd like to talk with you about my midterm grade. How would you like me to set up that appointment? And that's when they're going to say, hey, you just come down by office hours then, or I prefer you do a starfish appointment, or here's what you should bring to the appointment. And I think everybody's going to say, yes, I want to meet with you. And I think preparing them ahead of time gives you that subconscious, oh, I have already set up a time. I told him I was coming, so now I've got to go. That'll encourage you if you kind of put it off. But yeah, go ahead, connect with them. Make sure you're setting up that meeting the way they want you to set up the meeting, and then write something down so that you're prepared when you go in and you won't feel so nervous or awkward, because we all feel nervous or awkward. That's normal. That's okay. We were there ourselves not that long ago. Well, maybe it was a long time ago for some of us, but we were there yourselves once upon a time. And so, yeah, just do it. Just do it. Go on.
I agree totally with Robin on this, but especially that writing something down, because you know that you have certain questions that you want answered. But when you walk into the office, I mean, if you're like me, sometimes you walk in, you sit down, and all of a sudden there's one of those questions that you just forget. So having something written down and reading off of it, I've always been impressed with students who come in with their notes written down, and these are the 4 questions I want asked. And they'll go through and they'll ask those questions. The other thing, and we're at midterm now, so you can't do it now because we can't look in the past. We can't change the past. But get to know the professor during class. Take those opportunities after class to go introduce yourself. Take those opportunities during a break or something like that to talk to the professor or the instructor. Even for the rest of the semester, come down, talk with the instructors. I mean, we're here because we want to engage with y'all. One of the highlights of my day is when I get to talk to students. So don't think that you're being a bother to the instructor, because we're here for you. Our number one goal is to help you achieve whatever academic goal, professional goal that you've set for yourself. So if you have questions about your grades, if you have questions about how you're progressing in the class, please come up and talk to us. And as Robin said, go and talk to the faculty. I would say also right after class and go, how would you like for me to schedule the appointment? Because everybody's going to be different. Some of us are in Starfish. Some of us like email appointments. Some of us are going to tell you, hey, just drop in during my office hours. And so getting to understand that and how the faculty would like to set that appointment up will do a whole lot for you. But again, and I think other people have said this, we're people just like you. And so most of the time when I have a student that I've never met before or don't really know very well coming for a meeting, I get nervous. I'll sit and try to clean my office up and make sure that everything looks good right before that student walks in. So just understand, we're all in this to help you. And so reach out, talk to us, and be careful. We'll probably have some really bad jokes.
Thank you both so much. I think that is great advice. All right, so our next question is again for Dana. If a student ends up withdrawing from a required course, can they take that course again?
Oh, good question. Yes, you can take that course again. Now, sometimes, depending on the course, it might not be the next semester. Sometimes courses are only offered in the fall. Sometimes they're only offered in the spring. Sometimes they're only offered every other year. It depends a little bit. But yes, there's nothing aside from the schedule that prevents you from being able to retake that course again. So just because you didn't do well the first time around or decided you needed to withdraw doesn't mean that course is now off your list. Especially because if you're taking a course because it's required for your major or a minor or the pre-professional tracks like Professor Maxwell was mentioning earlier, there's certainly opportunities to retake courses again. You also don't have to retake that course again if you don't want to. If it's not a required component, maybe it's a general education course, you can pick a different course for that same category. So you've certainly got options there, but nothing that prevents you from ever being able to take it again.
Thank you so much.
I would like to
All
add one
right.
thing to that.
Please.
From the faculty standpoint, it's not a mark against you if you withdraw from my course. If you're a student and you withdraw from my course and you sign up for the same course with me the next semester, I'm not sitting there writing a note down that you're not a good student. On the contrary, you've made a adult decision. And so I will look at that and it's water under the bridge and we'll start the semester over again. But don't think that the faculty member is looking at you going like, oh, they withdrew from my course. There's no way they're going to be able to succeed now. No, again, we know things happen. And so if you withdraw from a course, don't think the faculty member is going to look at you any differently than any other student in the class.
Thank you so much. All right, our next question is for our students. Earlier, we spoke about putting in the work to improve your grades after midterms have been released. So do you have any study tips that you would like to share with your peers today?
I will go. Okay, so the something that I learned my first year in whenever I took FYE or first year experience 101 was the Pomodoro model of studying. So what that is when you study in chunks. So let's say you take a 30-minute block and you study that whole time or do homework that whole time, and then you incentivize it with a reward, so like a break. So then after you've studied for 30 minutes, you take a 5-minute break, or maybe if 30 minutes is a lot, maybe it's only 25. It's kind of up to you. But that is something that I have found has worked very well for me, trying to just utilize those breaks as kind of like miniature rewards so that at the end of something big, like at the end of a midterm exam or at the end of a big paper that I finished, I do something a little bit more special than a 5-minute break, like go get coffee or go get a donut or something like that. I don't know. But just trying to like use your study time as something that at the end there's going to be something beneficial. And not only is that the reward that you make for yourself, but also the grade that you get at the end.
I definitely agree with Ivan. That's what I have to do all the time. I study and then I take a little itty bitty break, but not on Instagram because then I'll get in a loophole. But what I will say is to set a realistic study schedule. Like, I know I'm a pretty busy student, and so me studying for like 3 and 4 hours every single day is not realistic for me. So what I'll do is I'll say, okay, I'll study 2 hours in the morning and maybe 1 hour at night when I have time. And I maybe might alternate those days as well because we'll set out time to study and then a social event might come up and we may want to do that social event instead. And so try to look at your schedule. That time management is really going to come into play instead of some realistic times to study. So that way you're having quality time while you're studying instead of a bunch of time where you're not really absorbing any information.
Great, thank you, students. Amanda, did you have something to add?
No, not really. I really do what Ivan's strategy is about incentivizing. So, woo.
Thank you so much. Thank you again, panelists. This is just about all the time we have for our panel, but before we conclude, I'd like to ask each of our panelists if they can share just one final piece of advice for students who have just started digesting their midterm grades. And I'm going to ask Dana to kick us off for this last question.
I think if I had one final piece of advice, it would simply be remember that your midterm grades are supposed to prompt action from you. If your midterm grades are exactly where that needs to be, then that means the action that you need to take is keep up the good work. Keep the pedal to the metal. You're a third to a half of the way there, depending on grading and how assignments have done in your classes. So just keep up the good work and recognize when there might be signals that things have gone awry, like further in the semester, and take action there too. If your midterm grades are not where you want them to be, then action is even more important. Talking to your faculty, connecting with your academic advisors, connecting with all of the great academic support resources at UNCG. It's all about action.
I'll jump in and just tell you to breathe. I mean, you're going to get inundated with maybe 4 or 5 different grades. And some of them you're going to sit there and be extremely happy about. There may be a couple that you're not excited about. Just take a minute and breathe. Let it kind of sink in, let it sit, and then start thinking about all the strategies that we've talked about. If your grade isn't where you want it, then you have to do something different. And we got to figure out what that different thing is. And that's when you start talking to your advisors, you start talking with your faculty. If your grade, back to Dana's point, if your grade is where you want it at, you're still going to have to work to keep it there. So don't rest on that. But at the end of the day, just breathe, okay? Where the semester is a marathon, not a sprint. And so the second half of the semester is not a sprint. It's still part of that marathon. So you've got to keep your pace. So just breathe.
All right, so I agree with what both of them said. I'm going to add one thing that we haven't mentioned a lot in here, and that is that tutoring and having a study group. Those are two things. Tutoring is free at UNCG. It's free. Your tuition already paid for it. And that person has been successful in this very same class that you're in right now. And they've got not just content help, but they can help you with, here's how I studied for this material. Here's how I think it was easier to learn this material. And then a group that keeps you honest and keeps your feet to the fire, and you're meeting every Wednesday afternoon, regardless of whether there's a test or not, and you got to prepare because your group members are counting on you. That can really help you keep yourself on track. So use other people, use your tutors. You can absolutely sign up for tutors still. They're not gone. There's more tutors coming in right now. And then find a study group, and your faculty member can often help you find somebody who, like, this student, I think they study very much like you, but they seem to be doing a little bit better. Let's hook you two up. I'll actually hook people up to become study partners because I think they might mesh well personality wise. So find your group, get someone else's help. That's going to be invaluable.
So I think for me, I like what Dana said a lot about using midterms as a reflection. The way I like to think about it is if your grades are not where they are, then use it as a life lesson and not an indicator of failure or anything like that. Just make sure to keep pushing through, because at the end of the day, the grades will still be in there. It's just how you approach them and how you take away, if you take away anything.
I like how Eric said to breathe, and I will also say give yourself some grace. College is a very, very big adjustment. Every semester is different. So doesn't matter what year you are, give yourself grace. Know that there is still time, and like Eric said, just breathe. This is gonna be okay.
Yeah, I think using midterms as a motivator is a big thing, and just find what your motivation is in general. Like, I think that something that is very valuable to have in college is the whole idea of knowing your why, what your end goal is, and what you want to get out of this experience. So just use this midterm as something that can only propel you forward rather than hold you back.
Thank you all so much. That was some awesome advice. I'd like to once again thank all of our panelists for joining us today. You shared some incredible information and advice for our students. And students, if there are any questions following this program, remember that you can always contact YFY at 1-336-541-6939 or by emailing yfy@uncg.edu, and we'll connect you to the appropriate resource. Be on the lookout for our post-event survey that will be sent out shortly. And remember, students that complete the survey will receive full credit for attending this program. That does conclude our program for today. So have a great day, everyone. Good luck with the rest of your semester, and we'll see you around campus. Bye-bye.